hi, this is Charlie Lorenz, host for the Abalone Hunter, and we're here at the Noyo Harbor. Basically, there's a lot of diving available here. It's also a lot of boat traffic out there, so you got to be very careful where you're diving. Behind me and over here to my right is a great place to dive, but the dangers is if you're going to have to go run off the jetty and swim across that channel where there's a lot of boat traffic usually to get to where all the abalone are over there. But I wouldn't recommend it unless you are very strong with your fin kicks, okay? But again, it's a short, easy way to get to where the abalone are here at the Noyo Harbor. Again, you could just walk out to the jetty out here where you see all the rocks, and there'll be a lot of folks doing some fishing off the rocks right here, and then you just right where that wall is, just swim right straight across. I mean, it only takes about like barely 20-30 seconds if you're really fast. But I warn you, just like being in traffic downtown, look both ways, watch for boat traffic, and make a wise decision as to when to jump in and get out also, okay? So be very careful again with the traffic. Okay, but I'm going to be diving here behind me to my left, the north side of the cove. It's much rockier over there, and also I feel a little bit safer from the boat traffic. Most of the boat traffic is concentrating their traffic right down the center of the bay, where because of all the rocks, especially if you look over here, there's going to be that huge rock that sticks out there. The boats basically stay away from there. Now I'm going to swim past that rock out there and dive beyond it in about 20 to 30 feet of water, where I have found many abalone of pretty decent size. I'll tell you, for those people that are trophy ab hunters, tens have been found in this area. But I'll keep a secret as to where they've been. All right, let's go down to the beach and go have some fun. My goal was to go up, down, and around. Now we're getting closer to my dive destination. I'm going to walk all the way over here to those rocks and then start swimming out. In here, contrary to belief, where abalone exists with kelp and rock, right here with all this kelp, very rocky, but look down at my feet, and you can get kelp attached to all this kind of loose rock and stuff, but it's not real good habitat for abalone. They don't really care for it too much. They're looking for that big boulder, kind of with cracks and crevices that they can hang on to or hide underneath. So I would avoid diving in close here if you're going to be looking for abalone in the Noyo Harbor. If anything, right where this rock is, and some of those further rocks out there, it's more like the habitat that they're looking for. Bigger, more rock that they can tuck and hide in. When I get past that rock, with our tide today, we have a plus 2 point some odd. I'll probably still be diving only about 10 feet or so. It's not until I get a lot further where the depth starts getting down to 20 and then 30, and that's where I've been finding the bigger abs. It kind of goes up, and then it comes down, and then there's this little finger that starts coming out.
Yeah.
And then I don't think you can go any further than that on the other side. I know for some of you that have been taking the first half of the abalone season and been doing mostly rock picking because of those huge minus tides we have. And unfortunately for the second half of the abalone season, we don't have those really huge minus tides anymore. So I think I'm talking mostly to our divers and our rock pickers, but in either case, for some of you guys that are interested in becoming a diver, the first thing that you need to get comfortable with or to be able to use is the mask and the snorkel. If you can't get comfortable with using the mask and the snorkel, it will be very difficult to do any kind of diving out there. But this is the key right here to looking underwater and finding those abalone, but most of all, being able to rest on the surface and getting yourself to a point where you can be so relaxed and get a nice good deep breath hold and make those nice easy dives. And I'm talking about comfortably 10 to 15 feet for 20 to 30 seconds and be able to find abalone. Okay, But we won't discuss in length about how to choose a mask that fits you. That should be done at the dive shop, and I would recommend, again, Subsurface Progression. They have a huge selection of masks because of the variance in people's faces and shapes and you name it. Each individual is going to be requiring a different kind of a mask that works for them. For me, for free diving, ab diving, I like using what they call a low volume mask with a dark skirt. And the reason why I like the dark skirt is it kind of cuts out all the reflecting sunlight around me and allows me to focus straight on whatever the subject is that I am working on, whether I'm doing photography or I'm going for a fish or abalone. It cuts out all the light that's, you know, bouncing around you when you're on the surface. Now, as a scuba diver, the black mask may not work for you. You may want to think of using a clear mask, but for our purposes today, I'm going to be using the black skirt with what they call a low volume mask. In other words, a mask with not very much of an airspace. Okay, you can find masks with huge air spaces, and they have their particular reasons we won't discuss now, but for me, the low volume mask is just perfect for free diving. Okay, snorkels these days, no matter what kind of a snorkel you get, are basically manufactured to fit on the left side of the mask. Okay, so as you can see, snorkel on the left side. Again, each individual's got to have their own particular snorkel that feels comfortable for them. Like for me, for example, this one worked perfect because the mouthpiece fits my mouth just perfectly enough to where it feels comfortable, where I can breathe and get a good dive out there. Okay, so one of the biggest problems I see with people with masks is the mask leaking, especially because of us kind of guys with this burly mustache and beard on us. If you don't set the mask perfectly on the face and you catch the mustache in this kind of a thing, you know, it curls up underneath the mask, it can create like a little fold and possibly leak in the mask. Okay, one of the things I like to do myself personally to ensure I get a good seal, so if you'll take a close look right here, I kind of cut down on my mustache here. So there's a tiny little space in between the mustache and the nose. So when I put the mask on, it sits on top of the mustache and right on the skin. Because actually, these skirts work best if the skirt is in contact with the skin. Again, if the skirt is over a beard or on the outside of a hood, you're probably going to get a leak. Okay, so that comes to the next subject here, which I'm going to show you in a minute when I get in the water, is putting the mask on and being sure that the skirt fits on the face, and especially underneath the hood. It isn't on the outside of the hood, which can cause a leak. Alright, now one of the other things you're going to see me do when I walk out here, I'm going to give it a good old hack. Whack! Spit in the mask. I'm going to rub the spittle in the mask and everything. Okay, this is to help me defog my mask. Okay, once I get out in the water, I'll probably rinse it out. And before putting the mask on, now this is a big deal, I feel. It's so helpful. So I got to cool the head down. If you don't cool the head down, no matter what you do to defog the mask, it's just going to fog up if you've got a nice hot head. Okay, even if you buy the best mask defogger on the market, if you're out here and this head is like a screaming 110 degrees, it's going to fog up on you. So cool the head down. Get out in the water, dunk that head in the water, get it nice and cool down, and then even anything as simple as using spittle on the mask will help defog the mask and you'll be just fine. Alright, so let's watch what I do. A little bit of spit, rub it in nice and good. I can even rinse it out before putting it on. Before I go ahead and put the mask on. Yeah. At this point, I usually take my thumbs, kind of lift the hood up, trying to get this skirt to sit underneath the hood. Okay, again, if the mask is over the hood in this kind of condition, that'll cause a leak. All right, so let's get it under the hood. Feel around, be sure that the skirt is sitting down, nothing's folded, nothing is, you know, tweaked or anything. It's all sitting down perfectly underneath the hood. I like to be sure it's in that little realm here on the mustache. Or if you have a really burly mustache, just comb the mustache down and get the skirt to sit the mustache like so. All right, at this point, I'm ready to go diving. I have the mask that's on. It's set underneath the hood. The skirt is touching all parts of the skin. Nothing curled up. I've defogged, as you can see. It's not fogging up on me. It's doing really good. Now the snorkel, one of the things that you want to be sure when wearing the mask that's on and the snorkel, again, the snorkel's on the left-hand side. You've checked your snorkel keepers to be that the snorkel keeper is not broken or torn. It's sitting really good on the mask. Same thing with your mask straps. Yeah, I mean, you gotta check all these things to be sure your equipment's in safe working order. Mouthpiece sits comfortably. It's not like pulling, you know, and uncomfortable. The general rule of thumb with all dive equipment, especially mask and snorkel, it should fit comfortable, okay? Some of the things, especially with this kind of a snorkel, that has what they call a purge valve. In other words, the purge valve allows some of the water to escape. But while you're diving, instead of blowing all the water out to the top, this also blows some of the water down below. Makes it easier to clear the snorkel when you're diving. But one of the biggest downfalls is this little purge valve here. As you can see, mine's looking in pretty good shape. Sometimes what happens is little dirt and debris gets stuck underneath it, and that can cause a leak, and it's really irritable when you have a mouthful of water. You want this to be fairly dry for you so you can get air, not water. But there are many different types of snorkels out there. Again, this is just a basic with the purge valve and the mouthpiece that just sits nice and comfortable on my mouth, okay? Again, there's so much more that we could discuss, but the best place to do that is going to be at the dive shop. Ask all the questions you need, and good luck. All right, so the rest of my job today is get my fins and go swim out, go get some abalone. Getting into these rocks, our only recourse is to sit down and slide in. Now you can imagine with all of these sharp little barnacles and snails and rocks and you name it, it's gonna wreak havoc on your wetsuit when you start sliding in. So think in terms when you're picking out a wetsuit, there are some wetsuits out there that come with an extra little bit of what they call a butt pad or spine pad to give you a little bit extra protection. If it doesn't, you can always take an old wetsuit and just cut out a chunk or so and glue one right on there, give you that little extra protection, okay? Otherwise, you could tear a wetsuit. Nothing worse than having cold water shoot up that wetsuit, all right? So I'm gonna slide on in. If you're going to be swimming around without your mask on your face, this is the best place. Don't leave it on your forehead because a wave can knock it off real easily. Down here, it's there, it's not going to go anywhere. Either that or tuck it away. Abalone! There's probably like a thick layer of lettuce kelp at the bottom. I mean, you get down the bottom, you have to go and dig through it. And while you're doing that, all the plankton bloom and silt that's sitting on the lettuce, just all of a sudden it's just everywhere. It's just like touching a sandstorm. It's just like, gets so dirty just like that. Oh, wow. Although I did find a few pockets that was pretty calm, pretty clear. You know, like these big rocks that you can follow the rock down, no kelp on it, you just follow the rock down until you find a crevice, and then that's where I found these two, actually side by side. I took the opportunity, took them both. Visibility was ranging about, pending, 5 feet or less. Picture this rock right here, 30-foot rock underwater. And you can just find them and you just follow the sides down until you find a couple crevices, and that's where the abalone are. And sometimes I find some big ones out there, but like today, it's so dirty. Really, I just took what I could see and take it. Well, right now we're just starting to go on the high tide. The tide is kind of lifting the kelp up. So with the kelp being in that kind of a position, it's easier to squeak around. If I was to try to swim through this earlier, with the low tide, the kelp, you know, laying like this, it'd be much more difficult. That's why I kind of like those medium tides, low going to high, and trying to get that higher tide so the kelp is kind of standing up. It doesn't get in the way so much like when it's on the low tide. It's like a bit.
We are making an abalone sushi, and it has macadamia nuts, mango, chives, and steamed abalone.
There we go.
I should know better. Jungle Girl sushi. We're Jungle Girls.
Super abalone pasta. Just pound it properly with Mario, and light flour on it, and then you sear it in some oil, just a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan. And before you flip it, you put in a bunch of garlic, so about 30 seconds each side. And then after that, you dump in about 1.5 bottles of white wine. And then let that reduce down. And then throw in some butter, some basil, squeeze a whole lemon, dash the salt, pour it over pasta in a bread bowl. We got a sourdough bowl.
Yeah.
With the abalone pasta. Usually we make it with linguine, but today it was the shells because it's a lot easier to put in the sourdough bowl. But with the abalone, the pasta, the basil, the garlic, the cheese, all in the perfect little serving size right here.
Very good.
So,
thank you again.
It's delicious. Take a bite. So what do you think? You like it in sauce?
I like it this soft, yes. All I can say is abalone.
We need to get the cook count here up to 40.
For every 10, we raise 20 grand. That's
You know how many cooks we have here today?
we have 24. We're shooting for 30. So it's all about the cooks. The more cooks we get, the more tickets we get to sell, right?
Yep.